This video is brought to you by AMD. This is not even mounted and I can't close it, but I'm not done with it. You see, this here's a build powered by a Ryzen 9950X3D with a 5090 in it. Very happy with the progress. That will power a whole entire simulator I'm working on with the Red Bull Racing. I just wanted something extremely small, really powerful with great temps. Anyways, I can confidently say that this delivered 180 frames per second in Cyberpunk, about 70 without frame generation. And then you got Valorant, which is outputting like more than 450 frames per second on a 4K OLED 240 hertz monitor. I think the whole thing for everything is pretty incredible. But this was literally the hardest computer I've ever built. In fact, I had given up on it.
Here. First, we need to remove the CPU locking mechanism around the socket. You'll need a Torx T20H screw for this, which luckily...
I've decided that I'm going to be building the fastest gaming PC ever. Sort of. It's not necessarily the fastest ever. Let me just explain. How many of you have attempted to recreate a build you saw online? I've definitely experienced that myself. I'm actually going through it right now, putting parts together on PC Part Picker, having heart attacks because parts are ridiculously expensive, and then you start downgrading piece by piece to match the budget. Yup, I've been there. I've done that. But you know what's crazy is that even if you have the money to spend, finding an RTX 5090 is impossible. So I gave up on the build. So I've got a few of my PC components. I've been literally plotting this for weeks. And I believe that this here is the motherboard. And that there is for the simulator, which I'll talk about it because that's what this computer is for. So there are actually two things that revived my motivation for this build, okay? AMD wanting to randomly work with me on it, and one of my YouTube friends, Callaway, letting me borrow his 5090 apparently. This is not it. Yeah, I thought that box was the motherboard I ordered. Aha. Yeah, shout out to AMD. Ta-da! The AMD Ryzen 9 9950X 3D. Yup, so there it was, the MSI B650i Edge Wi-Fi, the exact motherboard Optimum Tech has in his own build. But my build is actually going on a Red Bull Racing simulator I'm building with them, and it was all going to be powered by AMD. But check this out, okay? My case of choice for this AMD build is the Form T1, a super minimal case with metal components, incredibly easy to assemble. The build quality of this thing is so good, and there are so many ways you can go about putting some things together. In fact, you'll see a bit later how I needed to buy new motherboard standoffs just so I could offset the GPU bracket for better cooling space. Honestly, I had a lot of fun building it. In reality, it is a bit daunting at first. You might screw up a few times, but all the pieces actually make sense, except for one, because I never knew what this was for. Check this out. What a nice freaking build. This is actually unbelievable. It's so nice. I kind of screwed up here. But what I like about this is that it's so easy to take things apart. I forgot to put another standoff, which has to go practically right. Once the bulk of the frame was built, I moved on to the motherboard. This here's the MSI MPG B650i Edge Wi-Fi gaming motherboard. I paid $482.88 for it. Canadian dollars, by the way. Master class for the price. Apparently it's supposed to be. It wasn't for me. I'll talk about that later. But this was going to hold the GOAT CPU, the Ryzen 9 9950X3D, with 16 cores and 32 threads. What makes this CPU the GOAT is the 2nd gen AMD 3D V-Cache technology. This is insane for gaming and insane for productivity. Technically, this will be a build that will be able to do it all, and this for me is practically the heart of this tiny little computer. That said, for dedicated gamers, the Ryzen 7 9800X3D is still the top choice. But anyways, look, once I finish putting this whole thing together, I'll show you guys exactly what the GOAT of CPUs can do. Yeah, but for now, I have a long way to go. I've got very little clearance, okay, very little for the CPU cooler, so my hands are kind of tied, but I'm looking into some options. See what's best. Later on that day, I actually went to the store because I needed RAM and a power supply and storage, and I even asked the clerk if he had any advice when it came to removing heat sinks.
It's gonna be hard. Be careful. If you see you scratch them or tear them apart, just the only thing is that you'll void the warranty.
Yeah, I figured.
Yeah.
A problem for tomorrow. At least I had all the things I needed, including my 990 Evo Plus. You guys don't understand. You don't understand. I spent an hour, okay? This is not a lie. I spent an hour looking for this stuff. And I finally found it in a random box with random components. I really thought I wasn't gonna find this, which is why I ordered a second set, but you don't understand. I'm not irresponsible. So this morning I'm like, it has to be somewhere here. And I finally found it. Little did I know what was going to happen with this cooler. Look, I'll eventually get there. What you need to know is that to have nice clearance to fit RAM modules in here, you need a heat gun. I actually went to the store and bought one, and I started gunning away. I really wanted to remove the heat sinks of the sticks. I only did this because I knew how hectic this was going to get. Just between installing the SSD, installing this thermal light cooler, which by the way, compared to the Noctua L9A, the AXP90 was the one people recommended for the T1, and people also recommend pairing it with a Noctua Chromax fan. Apparently these fans run quieter and a tad cooler, which I did test much later. But look, at this point, okay, whatever, I think my biggest concern, like I said, was clearance. Last thing I need to do, I need to buy those little foam spacers for the Noctua.
Spit on that thing!
Just because apparently it helps reduce that high-pitched noise that the fan produces, so I'm gonna install that between the fan and the blades. I actually never ended up using them. And also, I'm waiting for the spacers I bought from Amazon in order to offset the GPU connector. So yeah, we're getting there. I spend the next hour putting things together and completely messing up my thermal paste. Okay, so this is where we're pretty much at right now. Very happy with the progress. I know this looks like nothing. On day 3, I had finally gotten some Arctic P3 fans I was going to use, and some standoffs I had to order to offset the GPU to let it breathe a little. So doing this required more than anything some trial and error. I had to watch Optimum's tech video a few times to get it working, but the trick here was to pair some 30mm standoffs with 5mm standoffs to be able to offset the GPU and the motherboard. And at first I couldn't get it right. So yeah, obviously this is not level. Yeah, but look, eventually I got it right. And just when I thought that everything was going well, as I was about to mount my GPU and the GPU riser, I realized the threads of my standoffs were too long, so it would block it. Just when you thought everything was smooth sailing, but yeah, you see that? I'm gonna have to trim. There you go. Magnificent. By the way, this GPU riser from Formed, not good, okay? Not good actually at all. I don't know if I broke it while I was installing it, but this cost me my whole Sunday. You'll see how miserable I was on Sunday. I really wish I had asked Eber from Hardware Canucks a lot earlier. Okay, oh, this is the part I hate the most, to be honest with you guys. Let's take a look. This here. Okay, one by one. Bruh. Then I've got this, this, and the cable. Bam. Okay, just need to find the manual for this because I'm not sure where it goes. And here's where technically everything started to go downhill. I really thought I had it all under control. I thought I was going to get away with having a smooth sail. And not only did I forget to install the power connector, but also, clearly, I forgot how to read manuals because I couldn't figure out why my PC wouldn't boot.
It's not turning on.
Until I connected the power connectors to the right pins.
Yeah.
And that's how my Friday went, friends. But little did I know Sunday was going to be hell. Here's the thing, you kind of want to use one of the Asus monitors that's going to be used in the sim rig to benchmark the PC. That's mainly because, well, it's 4K, output's 240 Hertz, it's an OLED panel, and well, the response time is like negligible almost, so yeah. The first thing that happened to me that day was that I locked myself out of the office. In fact, I had to borrow someone else's phone to call for help. Meanwhile, I waited, I decided to unbox this old monitor outside. I told myself, hey, why not? Let's not waste time. So I did that until help arrived. Well, I used someone's phone to call my girlfriend so she can call Jan because I don't know his phone number by heart. Now, I don't know if he's entering or not, but I'm here waiting. What happened? Luckily, it didn't take Jan too long to come rescue me. Bro, I was filming everything. I come in, I'm like... Then, not only did I waste time setting up the monitor, cleaning, setting up a new keyboard, a new mouse, a new headset, but when I was installing all the apps I was about to use, I realized that my temps were running pretty darn high, and this wasn't normal for the 9950X3D. In fact, I was thermal throttling the system, and I thought it was because of the splatter I made on the CPU with the thermal paste, which is why I ran to the store and got some new thermal paste, but that didn't work. So then I started troubleshooting. I thought that maybe my motherboard wasn't updated. I tried a new BIOS and nothing. Believe it or not, I spent hours shutting down the PC, turning it on, messing with the BIOS because a lot of the times nothing would show up on screen. Luckily though, I had a spare motherboard my Asus rep had sent by miracle. From 5 PM till about 7 PM, I spent time wiping the old SSD, updating the BIOS to the latest stable in order to support the 9950X3D, then trying to install Windows without internet, downloading drivers, checking new temps, and then as soon as I installed my graphics card driver, things went black. So, I discovered my issue. It's currently 7 PM and I finally figured this out. So apparently the formed T1 riser cables have issues, and I just figured out mine had an issue, so I connected the HDMI straight to the motherboard and everything works fine. I'm even getting good temperatures for once, which is good. Now I just ordered some other riser cables. Hopefully those come on time, but I'm hoping to just plug in the GPU and start testing this baby because I've been just wanting to test the CPU and see what type of performance it outputs. Good morning. Good morning. I'm so happy. Machine freaking works after I spent like 12 hours trying to fix this whole thing. Check this out. So the max temp we hit last night was 91 degrees. Now, obviously, this is all being air cooled. I wonder how much better it would perform if I liquid cool it. So look at this, okay? These are the temperatures this outputs while running the multi-core test on Cinebench. We got a multi-core score of about 36,000, and then with the single core test, we got a score of about 2,200. I ended up coming back to the thermal light stock fan during these tests, and this setup without the GPU was outputting around 70 degrees. I was also getting idle temps of around 50 degrees. So that was test number 1, but test number 2 consisted of using the Noctua fan. At idle, we were getting about the same temperatures. Temps reached about 95 during our multi-core tests, outputting 37,000. Then temps on the single core test were floating around 70 as well, with single core scores of about 2,200. So basically for me, nor did sound or performance change with the different fan setup. However, when I changed this whole thing to liquid cooling, it completely unlocked this CPU. Almost like I enjoy torturing myself, but I'm just trying to give you guys some temps. So we got results for the thermal light stock fan, we got results for the Noctua fan, and now we're gonna get some results for the H100i, which is the 240mm radiator. So I'm gonna put this together, hopefully it's not hell, and we'll test this out. Just know that inserting a liquid cooler in the T1 is not the easiest of things. In fact, I needed shorter PSU cables to fit everything properly, but this completely changed the behavior of the 9950X3D. My idle temps were 5 degrees lower, and temps within the multi-core score never exceeded 86 degrees. And as a result, we were able to unlock the full potential of this CPU, getting scores of 42,000 in multi-core and, well, 2,200 in single core. Practically the same for single core, but huge difference in multi-core, which is what's important for gaming. Ladies and gentlemen, we've received a 5090 Founders Edition after I've been digging for the past like month and a half. Thank you so much. Thank you. Ta-da! This is what we've been waiting for. I was so happy, even though I had to recable some stuff, because the 5080 I was using was powered by 3 PCIe connectors and this one needed 4. And don't judge my setup, I'm just waiting for my riser cable. If I remember well, I think the first thing I did was I checked my drivers and I changed my refresh rate to 240 Hz. It's so good. And the temps were finally very stable. I'm so freaking happy that the system works, and it doesn't only work well, but it works flawlessly. Anyways, it's incredible. It's so smooth, so nice. I am amazed because I really thought this wasn't gonna get done. Look, I'm very aware that I need to put the case back together. I should have clearance for the GPU, but I ordered some slim fans so I can actually just close the whole thing up. So we're gonna get that tomorrow, but today I just wanna start benchmarking things and just playing games and see how it behaves. I can't believe I got AMD to power this rig with their 9950X3D. Just to put things into perspective, word on the street is that AMD holds the best gaming CPU with a 9800X3D, then they hold the best productivity CPU with a 9950X, but now this here is set to be the best gaming and productivity CPU. Look, I come from a 7950X3D, a CPU I've owned for almost 2 years, I want to say. And while I only have great things to say about it since I mainly have a productivity workflow, for gaming, the 7950X3D wasn't as good as it could be, mainly because out of the 16 cores this chip has, only 8 cores would get extra L3 cache. So a lot of people who played games with this chip were getting performance hits because games would sometimes utilize cores that didn't have that extra cache. And think about L3 memory as, well, level 3 memory. In short, larger cache in L3 helps improve gaming and multi-core performance by reducing RAM dependency. Remember that this type of memory lives within the CPU compared to RAM, which actually lives just outside, of course. So L3 specifically reduces the need for the CPU to access slower RAM, which in exchange makes games run faster. Now the 9950X3D fixes all that, which is why it makes this CPU the undisputed GOAT of gaming, productivity, and content creation. So even though on paper my old CPU and this new generation look practically the same, the differences really are down to architecture. Compared to the 7950X3D, this chip now has the 3dV cache below the processing dies instead of above. And as a result, heat buildup has been improved in all these processors. It can run a higher TDP than my other CPU, so on paper, it's got a new 170 watt TDP with the new Zen 5 architecture and a TSMC 4nm process. It's actually been about an hour and 30 minutes. I've been messing around with the computer, just opening DaVinci, playing on Lightroom, just using Chrome and stuff, playing Cyberpunk and whatever. It performs so freaking well, better than my custom build, which is actually pretty insane to say because my PC is pretty darn fast. Now temperatures on this are finally stable. I think we made such a good decision on actually going liquid with this. Now I need to put all of it together, and I'm waiting for a few parts. So what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna put it all in that little case, and I'm gonna film a little cinematic. How's that? I'm having issues with the PCIe riser cable, so that's quite annoying. So I'm just gonna go back to the one that I was using before that I know for a fact that works, and see how I can mount it in this. I don't know if it's gonna be possible. I'm gonna have to order 2-3 more of these to see if they... anyways, I don't know what's going on with these. So, I went back to the old riser cable and things worked. Look, don't judge me, okay? I know this looks totally wrong, but working with PCIe cables in general is complicated. And not only that, but I need to clean up the cable management in here, which is why I might get some cables from Cable Mods. But look, the PC runs so well. I was able to put the bottom and top panel together and check my temps, which were incredibly stable. So I knew for a fact that I could easily run my benchmarks for the Ryzen 9950X3D. The first thing I wanted to get out of the way with the CPU was Geekbench. Geekbench in a way simulates a variety of real-world workloads, whether it's image processing, text processing, machine learning, data compression, some HTML5 and PDF rendering, and code compilation. The results we got without OC gives an idea of how well this CPU stacks against the current competition. In short, the 9950X3D outputs a single core score of 3200 and a multi-core score of about 20,000 to 21,000. With that, I started diving a bit into gaming and productivity. Cyberpunk runs extremely well on this computer, with practically every setting set to high and running it with DLSS on. The frames this outputs on average makes you feel like you honestly have the best computer in the world. Now, if you were to run this without AI, you definitely would drop in frames and it would average about 25 frames per second if I recall. But either way, the CPU TDP and the CPU times during gameplay stay incredibly healthy. If you don't want frame generation though, it's also possible to get a nice gameplay, but you'll be averaging about 60 to 80 frames per second. Valorant is a game I wanted to give a try, mainly because I used to play this a lot and I wish I had time to give competitive gaming a try, but for competitive esports, the 5590X3D will definitely minimize frame drops and maximize consistency. We're talking about easily 450 plus frames during gameplay, and Valorant is a CPU heavy game because it prioritizes high frame rates, fast hit registration, and smooth online gameplay. And we know that a fast processor with strong single core performance is crucial for maintaining high FPS. With that, temperatures stay healthy and I haven't seen anything go past like 90, 92 degrees. Then Spider-Man, a game I've been playing a lot on my handhelds. Connected to an Xbox controller, things run pretty freaking smooth at high settings. The ray tracing looks really good and I love how we can get around 150 frames per second during gameplay. But then, then you pair this type of gaming performance with productivity. Like check this out, pair this with DaVinci, Lightroom, and Photoshop. This just blows you away. DaVinci, for example, with footage running off a local server, we are talking about 422 footage in log from an FX3. Projects load extremely quickly and jumping into a project straight away to start working is absolutely nuts, like so good. Where their timelines go from a simple timeline to an extremely complex one, they run so fast. And color grading on a 4K OLED monitor with this CPU is just amazing. I love that. I also love how easy it is to keep that open up Lightroom and start editing images without a problem. I can import images from our local server. It imports about 100 pictures from a Sony Alpha Mark IV in about 10 seconds. I can edit those without a single hiccup. I can use our presets, tweak the lighting, colors, also maybe even add some AI brushes to auto detect and brush some objects for tweaking. Then when I'm done, I can easily open up Photoshop from Lightroom and just start tweaking things. All this while DaVinci with a complex timeline was running in the background, so it's so easy to just jump back and forth between this workflow. This exact workflow is what I am used to with my own PC, except it delivers a very consistent high performance experience across my entire workflow. And this I can easily use this to install my programming tools. WSL, VS Code, Postman, Parsec in case I need it. You can really very much do any sort of development with this, and that includes some Android Studio projects. Like you can easily use those emulators to maybe code in Flutter and develop something similar to Local Send, for example. This is the computer for all of it. So after that entire productivity workflow, we hit max temps of 82 degrees. That's not bad. And I can't believe the PC is this quiet now ever since I changed the fans of the cooler. Like, listen to it, you can barely hear it. And it's not like I'm not making it work. I mean, look at all the apps that are open. Look, I know this build is like 90% done. I think all I'm missing is a proper PCIe cable and some shorter cables to do some nice cable management, which I'm going to order, but I'm going to close this video off like this because you guys stay tuned within our simulator video. So I'm gonna be building an F1 simulator. I'm gonna finish this thing off and I'm probably gonna start rocking this on the simulator, but I'm also gonna steal it to have it at home. So yeah, stay tuned if you guys want to watch that. Don't forget to check out the 5590 X3D down below, and I guess I will see you guys all next Sunday. I hope you've enjoyed my pain. Take care.